Hello again, Peter Saturday from Universal Dork. I'm back yet again to talk about more Hong Kong horror. This particular film is one that I've been hoping for quite a long time that someone would step to the plate, clean up, and give a fucking dynamic new looking Blu-ray release of. It is The Wizard's Curse. The Wizard's Curse has got to be one of my all-time favorite Hong Kong horror, action, sex comedies. Yep, it is a mashup of all of those things. And a lot of these films from that particular era, this one taking place in 1992, they really try to blend a lot of these different genres together and fail miserably. That's one thing I've noticed that Hong Kong cinema from around that time period really tries to do, is take some sort of comedy film and mix it with a horror film and a martial arts film and an adventure film. And a lot of this stuff just does not work. It's got a lot of slapstick potty humor that comes into play in a lot of these films that either is just lost in translation, or what I would probably guess is it's just not very well written. Now, this film is written by this guy named Lam Ching, and that guy has really got a bizarre sense of humor, and you can see from a lot of the movies that he's done in the past exactly what I'm talking about. And Wizard's Curse, I think, is probably one of his best, most solidly written films. But I've watched this film with a group of people a couple times now. People's jaws just sort of hit the floor and they remain kind of dumbfounded, like I was the first time I watched this, with some of the lunacy that fucking unfolds on the screen in The Wizard's Curse. It is definitely one of the best genre mashup Hong Kong films out there. We've also got right here Lam Ching Ying stars in this film. I love that guy, Mr. Vampire himself. That was one of the films that made him incredibly popular. One of the best horror comedies of all time that just happens to be from Hong Kong from 1985. If you've never seen Mr. Vampire, definitely check that one out. I would say check out Mr. Vampire 1 and Mr. Vampire 3 are pretty incredible. Once you dig down a little bit deeper into his filmography, you'll definitely see that he's sort of playing this one-eyebrowed, supernatural sort of Taoist priest that has all of these wild and crazy magical abilities, as well as some incredible martial arts kung fu moves. This guy is a total master. Lam Ching Ying is one of the best. I would say that as far as vampire hunters go, and he's right up there with Van Helsing, Peter Cushing as one of the greats of all time. He did a whole bunch of films throughout the 80s. That movie, Mr. Vampire, kicked off his career and kind of exploited the whole Mr. Vampire thing a little bit. And I feel like sort of towards the end of the 80s, he was kind of playing that character too much in other films as well, besides the Mr. Vampire stuff, but he was being cast in all of these other roles where he was basically the same character. Now, there are some really great films that he starred in that aren't part of the Mr. Vampire series, but we saw him more recently in some films that were released on Blu-ray. We got An Eternal Combat from Vinegar Syndrome, which is an absolute gem in my opinion, starring Lam Ching Ying as very similar character as Mr. Vampire. And then we also saw him recently in Magic Cop. I can't remember who released that one. Magic Cop is pretty phenomenal as well. There's a really cool film that he did from, I believe, 1989. I've got a Hong Kong Blu-ray of it called Vampire vs. Vampire. Lam Ching Ying actually directs that. What sets it apart from a lot of the other Mr. Vampire stuff is in this movie, Vampire vs. Vampire, he ends up fighting a Western vampire, kind of like a traditional, more like Dracula style. You don't really see that much in Hong Kong cinema. You normally see the hopping vampires. So you get to see him take on this Western vampire, this sort of white guy that's, comes from the bottom of a church. They find him buried beneath a church, and he breaks out of his coffin and starts going crazy in their little village. And then Lam Ching Ying's got to go fucking deal with this bozo. He has a pretty phenomenal battle at the end with this guy. So that film as well, I wouldn't be surprised if Vinegar Syndrome or someone like that releases that eventually on Blu-ray also. That one's really good. And of course, I've got two versions of Wizard's Curse right here. This one is like the uncut version that I got from Far East Flicks. Highly recommend picking this thing up. I think it was only like $8 there. It's got the uncut version. It's got a little more of the characters fleshed out a bit, sort of like the villain in here is given a little bit more action there in the beginning. Really cool to see that footage, because for a long time I was just used to this version of the film, which is still great. I don't know if either of these are actual like official releases. I mean, I guess maybe that is. It's hard to tell anymore. And then I've got this VHS version of Wizard's Curse as well, which is really fucking cool. Great cover. Look at that. Look at that. in the back there. Pretty cool stuff. So yeah, Wizard's Curse is a totally bonkers movie. It's actually like a horror sex comedy with martial arts. It's like Porky's meets The Terminator meets a supernatural vampire possession film. It really blends a lot of genres together successfully. A lot of the Hong Kong stuff I feel like doesn't really do that very well. Somehow it hits all the right beats. It's got like really good characters. It's got a really, really great villain. It's got really wild and crazy special effects. It has got, a great hero, a couple of great heroes in it. It's got Lam Ching Ying starring again, though this takes place in like modern Hong Kong, so it's not like a, period piece, which I appreciate as well, too, seeing him there. He's kind of like this nerdy Taoist priest that has this, he's separated from his wife, and he's got this daughter that he's very protective of, and then you have this sort of dingling cop character. And one of the best things about this film is its just outrageous plot. Let me read it off the back here for you. Lam, a superpowered Taoist priest, is recruited by the cops to kill a pair of bloodthirsty criminals proficient in deadly black magic. He uses his unique abilities to end their reign of terror once and for all. But a fiendish wizard steals their corpses and anoints them with the sperm of 99 satyrs and the blood collected from the menstrual flow of 99 bitches. That's in the movie. Some of this dialogue and the subtitles in this film are absolutely astounding. They will blow your goddamn mind. The result, a merging of two maniacs into one ultra-vicious bisexual creature, known only as the Terrific Vampire. This lustful monster in a sweet leather jacket gains strength by devouring the brains of victims, and in turn grows a giant glowing penis it uses to bludgeon anything in its way. It's up to Mr. Vampire, Lam Ching Ying, his ex-wife, daughter, and a dim-witted cop to try and stop the creature's evil, bloody path of destruction. How does that grab you? These two killers are resurrected by a dark sorcerer. He has this crazy concoction that he puts together. He's sort of like in this weird sewer, this sorcerer, and he's bringing them back to life. And he kind of thinks that they're going to be like his servants or something, but when he resurrects these two serial killers, they emerge from this sludge, and they are not taking orders from anybody. In fact, they make short work of that guy very quickly, and they feed off of the brains of humans. From that point on, they're not only just like able to cast spells, but when they're resurrected, they are resurrected as a demon, and they share the same body together. So that's one of my favorite things about this is the villain here. They kind of look like they're almost a little bit like zombified. They're dressed sort of like Arnold Schwarzenegger from, Terminator 2. They've got the leather jacket on. They're kind of punk. They're in the same body, and he'll open up his shirt and her head will come out, or her body will come out, or vice versa. She'll inhabit the body, and then, her head will spin around, and then his head will be on the back. She'll pull her hair aside, and you can see his head and his face. Probably my favorite villain of any supernatural Hong Kong film, but they also go after Lam Ching Ying's daughter as well, who teams up with this sort of ding-a-ling cop. And part of the movie kind of turns into a bit of a rom-com as well as a sex comedy with these two characters. You've got sort of this hotshot cop. You've got Lam Ching Ying and his daughter, and Lam Ching Ying's definitely not into the hotshot cop the way that he's sort of, trying to womanize and kind of hit on his daughter. That plays out in a lot of really fun ways, and then it turns into sort of a chase movie. Lam Ching Ying and the two of them, they're all on the run together. The weapon that this creature, I'll just say it's a creature because it's both of them are like one entity, but this creature has like a giant wang. It's probably like a 20-foot long glowing cock that comes out and flings around. Then it uses this large a glowing penis to, beat down people and smash things. It's like this enormous, giant, spiked, hefty blue wiener that's swinging around all over the place that he uses to pummel people and then eat their brains. Some of the martial arts are really well done. Obviously, Lam Ching Ying is an absolute master at the martial arts. He's in full effect. He plays sort of this square, but when he is pushed to the limit to fight some supernatural threat, he goes full force. Martial arts moves, flips, he's jumping all around, uses all of these different spells of his. There's all these bursts of different, energy rays that come out of his hands, and he casts all these little spells, that make people do certain things. He's got like a laughing spell. He's got all sorts of different things that he uses to get himself out of sticky situations and to evade these guys, because he realizes that he can't defeat them on his own. And that presents to be kind of a little bit of a conundrum for him, because he's forced to team up with his ex-wife, or wife that he's, I guess, like separated with. And we get to meet her, and believe me, she is just as much of a wacky character. So this is a total family affair. Neither of them seem to get along too well, but they still seem to have this little bit of chemistry together. And his wife, just like Lam Ching Ying, is a total fucking badass. They've got all this baggage from the past that they sort of have to put behind them in this instance. And we get an absolutely, totally insane, action-packed finale when you get to see the terrific vampire face off with the entire family. And like any Hong Kong film of this particular era, it really ends on an incredibly outrageous note. Very similar to that movie Spooky Encounters, which I covered in the last video, where that one ends on a pretty outrageous freeze frame. In fact, anytime that I've watched Spooky Encounters with people, their jaws just sort of drop to the floor when they see that final frame of that film. Wizard's Curse right here is a total banger, and this one is in desperate need of a Blu-ray. Prints of the film that I have on here are, they're not too bad for the most part. They've got these really insane subtitles that sort of are burned into the actual film stock. So like when it goes to a scene where someone's wearing a white shirt and you're trying to read these subtitles, it completely blends in. So that's pretty annoying as well. I would love to have an English dub of this, but the subtitles for The Wizard's Curse are some of my favorite. Recently heard that Shout Factory has gotten the rights to like 100 Hong Kong films from this era, and I'm really stoked to see what they end up releasing. All right, so that's it for me today. Check out The Wizard's Curse if you like stuff like giant glowing penises that bludgeon people to death and brain-eating bisexual vampires that are truly terrific. All right, have a good one, and I will see you next time.